Thanks for tuning in today. I loved being here with you. I hope that you got something from today's episode. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. Drop a comment below, and if you feel led to, download the episode and share it with someone you love that needs to hear this message. As we continue to spread the goodness of this podcast, I'd love for you to help us by leaving a review on Apple Podcast or a rate on Spotify. As we increase listeners, we will come up more often when women are searching for podcasts to listen to. To stay connected with me, you can check out my social media pages at Live Life Balanced with Robin. You can check out my website at livelifebalancedwithrobin.com. You can book a discovery call. And if you're looking for a way to get started right now, you can opt in for my new quick guide for the empty nester refresh. You can join my wait list for my new course, It's Your Time, which is going to be launching soon, which I'm super excited about. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your day. It truly means a lot that you're allowing me to be on your wellness journey with you. Until next time, find peace, love, and light by breathing, being present, and allowing for all possibilities to happen. Hey y'all, we're back today and we have Lisa Roers on. I'm so excited. She's from the Sunshine Café Podcast. She's a certified coach. She's a Bible enthusiast. She's disciplined with Jesus. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's a professional musician. She worked in corporate America. Unfortunately, in 2017, she got a diagnosis of an autoimmune disease that really took her out. She was really not even able to walk. And after seeing 30 plus doctors, kind of decided that she needed to go on her own exploration journey to try to figure out her own health, which she has done. And the conversation's amazing. We talk about things all over the place, from autoimmune diseases to reframing our thoughts, to labels and reading, to fasting. She has a program coming out that you might want to check out on her website, which I'll drop in the show notes. Definitely check out her podcast. Also, she has some amazing guests on. Just recently I listened to one and it was really empowering. So check out her podcast again, is Sunshine Café. And without further ado, let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I am beyond excited today to have Lisa Roers on. We met through a class, but we really have become fast friends, but I love what she has to talk about, and I love her wisdom, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her, and I know you guys are as well. So welcome, Lisa. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on the program today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I just want to start just by, having you tell a little bit of your story, because we're all interested to know who you are and kind of how you got where you are today.
Yeah, well, that's a long story.
Yes. Just a recap.
Yeah, just a recap. There's so many, I think like so many of us, we've lived multiple lives in the span of a lifetime, and we live multiple tracks on that life. And my life story has been labeled with lots of different labels. I've been a daughter, a mom, a sister, a musician, a healthcare agent, I've just been a lot of different things. But on the health journey, and I've also 26 years of experience in the corporate world, being an executive coach and working with high-level executives on how to present their best self, how to kind of get a third-party view of how they're presenting themselves to the world. So I really love helping people be their best. I love helping people kind of maybe see the things that they don't see, acknowledge the blind sides that they have. And sometimes that's related to just self-awareness. Sometimes that's related to our health. Sometimes that's related to just how we think about ourselves. So my journey, I've got recently, in the last 6 years, 6 years ago, I got an autoimmune disease that really took my feet out from underneath me, wiped me out to the point where I really wasn't even able to walk, Robin. And so it was just a whole journey that launched 6 years ago, which really changed the trajectory of my life. So up until then, I had been coaching and doing my life, pouring into our son and just doing the things that moms and wives do. And then it was really up to me to figure out what was going on with my body, all of a sudden I had this huge distraction that I had to figure out. And I went through, I stopped counting at 33 doctors that I had seen, everything
Interesting.
from functional med to Western med to you name it. And I finally decided, okay, nobody's going to know me better than me. I have to dive into my own. We have this beautiful access to knowledge now with the internet. So I really started diving in and being my own self advocate to find out what was going on. And where nobody else was able to help me, I was able to heal myself in a matter of about 9 months or so. And walking again, got off all the steroids the doctors had put me on, and really feel like I'm reclaiming my life. So, and
That's
all of that in the
amazing.
midst, yeah, thank you. Thank you. And in the midst of all of that, I have also been a caregiver for my mom for 20 years. And so that chapter also came to close recently. So, like I said, lots of different tracks, but I think a lot of which many of us deal with. And so it's a familiar, one of those tracks is going to be familiar with to somebody in your audience, because we all walk those roads. We all have
Yeah.
those paths.
First of all, I'm sorry about your mom.
Yeah,
I know
thanks.
you and I have conversated about that before, but
Yeah.
it's a hard thing. Being a caregiver is a hard thing. Not having them is a hard thing. It's all hard, but
Yeah.
it's how we look at the hard and what we do with the hard, right? It's about
Yeah.
how we process it and move through it. And,
Yeah.
you know, I love your story about just, living your life as you go. And then all of a sudden you're diagnosed with something. And
Hmm.
a lot of people are like, the, the mindset is, I woke up one day and I had this.
Yeah.
And that's actually not true, because
No.
it's a manifestation of all the years of even not subconsciously, or not just not having the knowledge to know what you could have been doing. And that's okay, because that's part of life, right? And it
Yeah.
creates the journey that we're then meant to live.
Right.
And, you know, I'm glad to hear you say that you've been to Western and functional and integrative and all of the things, because when you're just a Western mindset, trying Eastern modalities is always wonderful,
Hmm.
because sometimes you can get some little pieces of nuggets of wisdom along the way. But ultimately, one person, whether Western, functional, whatever, they do not have all the answers. The
No.
actual truth is they all know what they know, and you can
Yeah.
learn from them, but you know yourself best, just like you
Exactly.
said. And so taking that, empowerment feeling and just knowing that we all have the information at our fingertips. It's
Mm.
just hard to decipher through. And
Yeah.
so when you have that mindset of, I'm going to be my own advocate, I'm going to listen to myself, there's a lot of trial and error. And so,
Mhm.
taking 9 months, again, we live in a society where we want that quick fix. We
Oh
want
yeah.
that pill
Amazon
that's
has
going to
ruined us.
right, exactly.
I want my
It's my
health and I'd
doorstep.
like it in prime delivery in
That's
2 days,
right.
please.
Right. And that's not reality. And I think that's where the frustration comes in for a lot of people is they are never, taught, told, whatever, or learned that it takes time. Your body, you don't wake up sick one day.
Right.
It's a buildup.
Yeah.
And, autoimmune disease is a term that I feel like is a crapshoot to all things that nobody knows.
Yep.
It's your immune system is not functioning properly, but we actually don't exactly know why. And
Yeah.
even if it has a label, it's like, okay, well, how do we get the immune system back in check, right? Like that's
Yeah.
first and foremost. So
Yeah.
on your journey, I'm sure you experienced some of that. So
Oh
I'm just
gosh, yes.
curious, what was the first, if you can remember, because that was a long time ago, I'm sure, what was the first like few things that you started to do where you felt like, okay, I'm seeing a glimpse, I'm seeing some hope?
Yeah. Great question. Before I start there, I just want a couple
Yeah,
of things
sure.
you said. There's two misnomers that I think people believe, and that I think is a starting point for answering that question, actually. The misnomer is, number one, this life is not easy.
Yes.
Hello. Let's just acknowledge that. For anybody to say, hey, I'm having a really bad day, I'd say, great. That's a normal day for you, huh? Because life is hard. And we were never promised ever that life would be easy. I am a Christian, and even in the Bible tells me that in this life you will have trouble.
That's right.
So the first misnomer is that why do we expect to be healthy? Why do we expect to have an easy life? It's not easy. Life is hard. The easy stuff comes in heaven. That's where
That's
easy
true.
comes. The
That's true.
second misnomer I think that we often believe or buy into is the fact that one doctor or one thing or one change is going to make it better. Because unless if you're talking like one change as in change my diet. Now that one change is a really big umbrella. But to get back to
Yes.
your question about what were the first couple things that I did to change? Well, number one, becoming aware was the biggest
Oh,
thing.
love it.
Yeah, because like you said, dis-ease, which is disease, dis-ease, comes from a variety or a buildup, like you said, of our poor choices or choices that maybe we didn't specifically choose, but we are in an environment. Sometimes people live in an environment that's just unhealthy. Their home is in a place where water is not clean or electric magnetic energy is not good for healthy bodies. So the first thing is to start just becoming aware. How much processed foods are you eating and what even is a processed food? Let's start there. So my journey started somewhere around then. I'll tell you, in that space of trying to just become aware.
Sure.
When I grew up, I was, my family did their best, and I praise my mom for all that she was able to do in the realm that she was able to do it with what she had. But I was never educated on what fruits and vegetables were and how to properly fuel my body. And little by little, even over time, our food has changed. If you
Oh,
haven't
yes.
been aware, our food
Yes.
has really changed. I challenge you to try to find a loaf of bread in the grocery store that does not have sugar in it.
Mm.
We add sugar to it. When
Yeah.
you make bread at home, when you make homemade bread, do you ever add sugar to it? I mean, unless you're making a cinnamon roll or something. But I make bread with flour, yeast, and water. Done. That's it.
Yeah.
Salt, a little salt. So it's interesting to me that over time, when we weren't really paying attention and we weren't really being aware, the things that we were putting in our body that we thought were good no longer are. You can't even buy maple syrup anymore and really have it be maple syrup. It's actually corn syrup with some other chemical flavorings so you really have to wake yourself up to the fact that, okay, while I was living life, excuse me, while I was living life and trying to be a mom and a great wife and a career person, maybe also, and take care of all the things, life was changing around me and I wasn't even aware of it. So first and foremost, become aware. Start looking at your labels and start understanding that. Just recently, after an interview that I did, I looked up what are some of the common words for sugar? Because I know
there's 50, 80. There's
yes.
Yeah, there's so many. I have a sheet that has them all, and it's mind blowing.
Mind blowing. I was struck by the fact that there was an actual article that said 50 common words
Right.
for sugar. It's like, oh my goodness, if that's the common ones, how many uncommon ones are there that they are putting on the labels of our food? And we just kind of ignore them because we don't know what those words are or how to pronounce them.
Yes.
And frankly, it takes a scientist to understand and pronounce most of those words.
So much. Yes. And I want to say one of the things that is also extremely frustrating when you are reading a label is somewhere along the line, some people are taught in health, like a health class, that when you read your label or your ingredients, like the first one is the ingredient that's most in the food, right? So then if that's all you know, you're looking and like the fourth ingredient is sugar. So you're like, okay, well, it's not the first, right? But the problem is it's there and it's 10 other places in that long list of processed, ingredients. And so you're getting so much more than you actually think. So I feel like it's a greenwashing dupe. And while you were living life, I love that things were changing. And unfortunately, they were changing for the greed of money.
Exactly.
And how we could keep something on the shelf for 20 years. When I found out what HTQ something, I forget the little acronym. When I looked that up, I thought, ew, that allows these crackers to sit on the shelf for 20 plus years without rotting. Like that's what the heck? I'm not eating that. That's gross. That's definitely is not going to do anything good for my body.
Exactly. And
So,
kudos to the businesses because quite frankly, they're trying to make decisions that will prolong their product and
Sure.
will allow it to last in your pantry forever. But I'd say that the awareness factor for all of us, shame on
Yeah.
us for not really being aware of what's happening. We are powerful. That's the second thing I want to say that came to my awareness. So I first kind of learned, okay, I gotta be aware of what's going into my body. This dis-ease that I had didn't come overnight. It was a collection of, a toxic load build up that happened over time. And if I created that toxic load, I can unload it as well. It'll take
Yes.
time, but I can unload it. And so I have to start looking at what's going into my body, what kinds of things, what kind of decisions am I making, and understand that I have power. And where I put my money will be where the market moves.
Mm-hmm.
So if I buy organic, if I'm able to, if I have the finances to buy organic, that's my dollar vote. So, the more money that a company can make in organic, if the shifting of people's dollars goes that way, that's where they're going to put their business dollars. So anyway, so just to say that I don't fault the businesses because they're doing what they're supposed to do. Their shareholders want them to grow, but shame on us for not being aware of it and using the power that we have to help them make business decisions that push their business in the ways that'll be good for us.
True. Yeah, I like that reframe. I like looking at it in that respect. I do still feel like, the more that they can sell is what's at their forefront. And
Yeah,
so I do
of
think
course.
you're correct, even in products, household products, personal care products, where you spend your dollar is what, if nobody bought, I'm just making this up, but if nobody bought Oreos for the,
Yeah.
next 20 years and bought something else instead, swapped it out, they
Yep.
would no longer be making Oreos. They would
True.
have to change.
Yeah.
The one thing I do see some companies doing, which is a step in the right direction, is they create one or two products, right?
Mhm.
And and then people think, oh, that whole company's great. And so let me just buy a lot of what they do. And
Mm.
again, that's giving your power away. It's
Yep.
allowing somebody else to make decisions for you. Whereas when you're a little bit educated and you do have that awareness, you can quickly make decisions that are better for you.
Yeah.
So I love that talk. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing that all up because it's super
Yeah.
important.
Well, I think we have to we have to always be aware. We have to always be
Mhm.
alert. And we have to stop making assumptions that just because a company makes one good product, that every one of their products is good. Because it totally depends on the leaders. You can have a really great company, and I'm sorry, but I think we saw this with Disney. We have a really great company, but when leaders change, the
Mm.
entire company can and will change. So we have to be kind of just aware of what's happening around us. And that's hard because that takes so much more energy. It's really nice to
Yes.
just go on autopilot and say, okay, I know my safe areas, but unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. And there's nothing more important than our health. So as you start having more time in your life, as kids get out of the house, as you start shifting, this is a beautiful time to start looking at ways that you can turn back the hours of time a little bit, and here's why it matters. You've got your kids, grandkids, you've got your children, you've got friends, you've got family, you've got a mission in life just to do what God has for you. And if
Mhm.
you're incapable of walking and being strong and being capable, you can't be used to impact the world as much as you otherwise could be, let alone just
100%.
to impact your own family. So health really matters. It doesn't matter the beautiful dream home or the great retirement that you have to look forward to if you, once you get there, cannot walk to
That's
go
right.
on the trip that you planned to go on. And my mom's situation really taught me that, our health is not a guarantee. And
Mm.
it's not not a guarantee that it's going to go quickly either, you
Mm.
know, uh, or go quickly or slowly. Some people say, oh, I'm just going to kind of deteriorate over time. And, when that's age, unfortunately, that's just age. I really hate it when people say that, by the way. It's not just age. If I worked and moved and ate the way my son eats, I would be a lot better shape, lot better shape. But I
Yeah.
sit all day and I don't eat as infrequently as he eats. And I don't move my muscles and things like that as much as he does. So we need to be moving. We need to be eating well and taking care of our health so we can live our best lives. Those things all really, really matter.
Yeah, and it's so true. And it's never too late. When people say, oh, well, I've already done that my whole life, so I'm not going to change now. It's like, that's okay. I mean, that is a choice. If
Yes.
you choose that choice, then you're going to choose that path.
Right.
And what I have learned from my mom, yes, Alzheimer's is genetic in some, way, shape, and form, dementia, but there's a lot that's not.
Yeah.
And, what I do every day is because I will try my hardest, by learning and educating and making sure that I can create the best brain health for myself.
Yes.
Do I know 100% that that's going to be what the end looks like? I don't,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down without saying I tried,
Right.
and
Well,
so,
let's touch on that for a second because a couple things that you're saying. First of all, my mom had multiple sclerosis for those for our listeners here,
mhm,
and what she dealt with. She could have fought harder. The day that she stopped doing her daily stand-ups was the day I knew she would never get out of her wheelchair again. It's an
yep,
everyday process. It's an everyday thing. Dementia in particular is now being called diabetes type 3
yep,
because it's so related to our insulin levels. And the genetic element that you mentioned is really interesting because so many of my friends had asked me, well, are you aware, when I got my autoimmune issue, they're like, oh, well, do you think it's MS? Well, MS has a genetic tendency, but it's not necessarily genetic. So just because mom had it doesn't mean I'm going to get it for sure. But there's this thing called epigenetics. And epigenetics means how we eat and what's in our environment. Epigenetics is this, where we can turn genes off or on. It's kind of like we can either open the door or shut the door on whether that gene expresses itself by just what we're eating and what's in our environment, what goes on our body, what kinds of things we put on our skin. And so
yes.
those kind of things really, really make a big difference.
Yes. And I just want to remind people that when you have, again, we have the power for choice. And so as you get educated, you're not going to change everything overnight, but just if you were someone who did not know the word epigenetics before you heard, this podcast episode, you've learned something, and
Right.
it's like a light switch. And
Yeah.
so just because it is a genetic thing in your family does not necessarily 100% guarantee that it's going to happen to you if you change some of your behaviors. And it is food, it is what you wear, but it's also your mind. It is
Yes.
also the stress levels. It's so much more than just movement and food.
Right.
It's everything that we do, the way
Yeah.
we think, how we solve problems, what we do with challenges. Do we
Whether we
use them as
forgive or
opportunity?
not, if
Right.
we've forgiven people, how many broken relationships we have, all of those things play into our overall health. And it's not, one of the things I wanted to mention. It's not just one thing. Our
Yes.
bodies are a complete, beautiful, integrated system. So when you have something wrong with your tooth, as we all know, it like shuts down our capability and our entire body. We just like lay ourselves up for the week because we have a toothache. So everything is connected. And that includes the mind, body, spiritual, our health with relationships, our job stresses, our
Where we find
relationship.
joy.
Yes, how we express creativity. And there's so much science now showing that our creative expression, whether it be art or music or drawing, whatever it might be, that might be your expressive energy, creative energy outlet, is a direct healing modality for our brains. So if you are overstressed, if you are feeling a little bit emotionally down or sad, that creative exercise of playing a song or singing a song or drawing, those things actually create different neural pathways in our brains that heal our fatigued, sense of life. It just really is so powerful.
It is. I love that. And if you're saying, oh, well, I don't draw and I don't sing, creativity is so much more than just the few basic things. So you have to get creative
Yeah.
about it. For
Could be
me,
journaling, could be
it's
photography, could be
it's
whatever.
organizing. Like for me,
Yeah.
is organizing. So if I'm like feeling off, if I'm not, if I organize, and this, not for everybody, but if I organize a closet, or if I, just straighten up the house, or just
Mhm.
do something that makes me it removes you. Basically what it does is it removes you from all of those feelings, and it changes the emotional state that you're in. Therefore, then you can kind of move past. I will say, with healing, there are lots of different ways to heal, and there's not two people that are exactly the same. And so again, if you're on a healing journey right now and you've tried one or two things and you're, feeling like they're not working, just remember there's so much more out there. You just have to be open to all the possibilities, and you have to be open to receive that information, and it will show itself. It just takes time sometimes.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about like fasting for healing. And I know that's something that you dabbled in and do. And so, it is a necessity, can be a necessity for healing. But I also feel like, again, it's come into mainstream as a quick fix. Let me do a 7-day juice cleanse and then go back to my old habits. Let me, drink a juice every day, but, go through a drive-through. It just, there has to be, I want to just educate people on the goodness of fasting, but at the same time, life changes have to happen too.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, so true. I think on the fasting is a tool that is so completely underutilized. We don't embrace self-deprecation or what's the word I'm trying to say? Not giving ourselves, not satisfying our everyday wants. We are a society that, what you want, what you need, you get today. It's the Amazon thing again. It's like, you want it, go ahead, go buy it. You'll have it on your doorstep in 2 days. The thing with fasting, it is a huge tool for self-discipline. It is an opportunity to break cravings, an opportunity to break strongholds. It is a biblical tool that has been used for thousands of years. And we have this, and I don't know, I think the food industry put this little thought in our head that it's really bad for us. But the fact is, fasting is the most beautiful thing you can do for your body. If you think about it, your intestinal system is 30, 40 feet long and is constantly working every minute of the day, especially after you eat. There's a reason why you don't swim after you eat, because your intestinal system is so working. All the blood and energy is working on digesting that food that you can't then use that energy and blood to swim. And you don't want to sink to the bottom of the pool. So with all of that energy going to our intestinal tract and as it's digesting food, all of that energy is being derailed from healing. So if you can give yourself 3 days, let's just say 3 days for a water fast, and just let yourself rest, let your whole 40 or so feet of your intestinal tract rest for those 3 days, all of that resource that was used for digestion can now go, I've got time and energy now to go fix the things that are broken. Think about it for all your listeners, Robin. I'd like them to think about what a gift it is when they get a vacation, or when everybody leaves the house and they are alone and they've got their house all to themselves and they don't have to take care of dinner, and maybe they've got 2 days where everybody's out of the house and you can just, whether you want to pour yourself a glass of wine or a cup of tea or just, sit by the fire or whatever it may be, just what a peaceful feeling that is. That's what your digestion and your whole body feels like when you say, I'm going to give this body a fast. I just did a 3-day fast. I've done multiple long-term fasts. I've done 3 60-day juice fasts where all I do for 60 days is juice fast or drink juices. And those are juices that I've made, which are fully organic vegetables and fruits that I've purchased. So I'm not talking about, ocean spray apple juice that I bought at the grocery store. So fasting has been a huge part of my healing journey. But I would say for anybody who's even never done a fast before, even just extending your fasting window is an opportunity. And they call that intermittent fasting. So every day people fast, and it's that time when you're sleeping. That's why we call it breakfast. It's breaking the fast from overnight. So extend that fast just a little bit. Instead of having breakfast right away, wait till lunch. And then after you've done that a couple of times, instead of having lunch, wait till dinner and have that just be one meal. If you are relatively healthy and you're not on prescription medications and you're in a strong place, you could easily dive right into a 3-day water fast. And when I do water fasts, I do herbal teas and I do 1 cup of coffee in the morning. And I know some people who are diehard fast purists would say that's not allowed, but my one little cup, and it's a tiny little 8-ounce cup of coffee, and it's my time with my husband in the morning. So I do give myself that. But if you give yourself those 3 days with nothing but water, maybe some herbal teas, you're going to go through some interesting journeys because you're going to get headaches probably depending how badly you've been eating. Your body is starting to have time and energy to detox from the things that you have been putting into it. But after those 3 days, you're going to feel refreshed. You're going to feel much more energized. All of that high level toxins will be out of your body, and you're going to be in a much better place to change the trajectory of your health.
I love all of that. And a couple of things I wanted to kind of just go back to because they really like stood out to me is, again, if you've never done a fast, definitely start slow. If you are somebody who has, eaten the standard American diet most of your life and you're just sort of getting into this, it definitely can be a shock to your system if you go straight into, a 3-day water fast. But I want people to understand, and she did a really good job at explaining it. A fast is simply just an amount of time that you are not putting food in your mouth. It is a time when your body can heal and repair. And one of the biggest things that we do in our society is we eat and then we drop into bed. And for those of you who don't know, it's about a 90-minute window that your body's working to try to digest foods, and it goes into your intestines and the whole 9 yards, the whole process. So if you're jumping into bed and you're dozing off to sleep, when you do that, your body kind of slows. Everything, your organs slow, like that's part of sleep and part of the rest process. And so if you're trying to digest and you're trying to sleep, it just really doesn't make for a good environment all the way around. You're not going to get quality sleep. Your body is going to have a really hard time digesting the food. You might not feel great the next morning. You could have the bloating, the whatever, all the things. So again, if this is like just your first time dipping your toe in, make a conscious, intentional effort to stop eating right after dinner and eat earlier. Eat at 5. As you're experimenting, eat at 5, and then, don't eat the rest of the evening. Go to sleep. When you wake up in the morning, have that glass of water, maybe push your breakfast a little bit, and just see how you feel. A lot of it's experimentation because everybody, again, is different. And what you have going on is different than what I have going on. And where I am on my journey is very different than where you are in your journey. And so there's no two journeys alike is what I'm saying. And so do for you what feels the best. Not that a 3-day water fast is going to be extremely comfortable, even if you are in, what you consider your healthiest version of yourself. It is your body detoxing. So you're going to have to, go with the symptoms and the things that might occur. But again, the other thing I loved that she said is she still has her one little cup of coffee in the morning, and she does herbal teas. And that other person might not think that she's really doing a fast. Well, she's doing what is right for her. And so that's, it's all relative, and it's living with balance. So no, don't have a piece of chocolate cake in the morning if you're doing a 3-day water fast. But, again, everything in moderation as far as you're trying things on that are new for you. Thank you so much for kind of talking all about that. One of the things
fasting I'm just really hugely passionate about fasting. I just think it's I think we're a little bit over protective or we over baby ourselves. I think almost anybody can do a water fast for 3 days. Unless if your prescription drugs are the things that bring in a lot of unknowns, because a lot of those drugs are not intended to be in the body without other elements in food and whatnot. So always, and I know, Robin, you agree with me on this, but always can talk to your healthcare practitioner about this stuff before you dive into it. But also be ready for them to say, no, don't ever do a fast, and be ready for them to kind of push back. But this is your opportunity to be a healthcare agent for yourself and take in what they're saying to you as their advice for sure. But also a fast and this whole process is an opportunity for you to start learning to listen to your body. When you fast, you are starting to become really aware of what your body is telling you. And I do have some friends who have said, oh, I can't fast. Every time I fast, I get really headaches. And I'm like, yes, that is the point. That is your body starting to get rid of the things that you need to get rid of to heal. So you need to get to a point where you know yourself well enough to say, is this a bad headache in the respect that I have to make a change and put some food in my body? Or is this a bad headache that's just my body working through the other junk I put in it last week? Those are nuances. And it like to your point, Robin, it takes time to learn it takes some experimentation to learn when is my body saying it needs something for me to take action on? And when is my body just reacting to the process of curing itself and healing? It is a journey.
For sure. Absolutely. And I think all wellness is, to be honest. I love the wisdom that you're sharing about fasting, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
And I think that it's important to, again, know your body. If you're on medication, make sure this is educational information, make sure you talk to your, healthcare provider, but also do your own research.
Mm-hmm.
Do your own research, and knowing your body best, make choices for yourself. Even if maybe your doctor isn't in agreement, that's where I would just start slow.
Yeah.
I want to shift just a tiny bit, but we're not really shifting, but I really want to talk about mindset. Like, mindset resets to me are pivotal when you're on a wellness journey, because I think a lot of us, so many of us, come with a story. We have a story that we've been telling ourselves for a long time. And some of those stories are our parts and pieces we've created. Some have been put on us by other relationships or parents, not that, our parents ever did anything out of any other intention except for love. But, sometimes we absorb other people's things and it changes the way we feel and think. So I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit and get your words of wisdom on your feeling around the mindset and resetting it and reframing and all of that.
Oh my goodness. Well, this could be a whole nother podcast episode, my friend.
Yes. We're just going to touch on it today, but I definitely will have you back on.
Yeah. I at the end, we'll talk a little bit more about the digital course I offer, because mindset is everything.
Yes.
And the digital course that I offered touches on mindset and fasting. It's a two-pronged thing. But we'll get there. Mindset, there's nothing that we do in our day while we are awake that doesn't affect our mindset. And in fact, a lot of our mindset affects how we sleep as well.
Yes.
And it is all about reframing. You had talked earlier about, how it's complex and we have to experiment and it can be overwhelming, but I want to help our listeners here today understand it's not overwhelming. Instead of looking at it as overwhelming, I want you to start thinking about it as an adventure and a puzzle, almost like a game you get to figure out. And the game is figuring out your body. What is it that your body loves? What is it that your body doesn't love? I want you to also consider on the mindset front, which stories you're owning because they're true and why you think they're true. So truth is hard to excavate because it's a collection of things that we've learned over our lives. And a lot of it is instinctual. Things that we've witnessed and observed while we were growing and learning, because a lot of what we learn is things that we observe. Yes. So if I, as a child, observed my dad hurting my mother, that would create a whole level of instinctual things that I will absolutely respond to for the rest of my life without even being conscious of it.
Yes.
If I had a father who was really loving to my mother and really loving to me and very intentional, now that's going to create a whole nother level. Now, they're not necessarily good or bad. They just are. Now, remember, life is hard And life always is hard for everybody. No one's got it easy out there. Everybody has a story. Everybody has battles that we've been working through. The challenge is here, and the fun puzzle you get to figure out for yourself is, what are the truths that guide your daily living? And where are you getting those truths from? And are there anything that's holding you back or giving you fear or giving you anxiety that is merely a misunderstanding or a mistruth, something that you thought was true, but isn't? I'm going to give just a really quick example of a tangible thing that we can all kind of relate to, which might help illustrate this. I had a very bad relationship with my dad growing up because he just wasn't in our lives. My mom and dad were divorced when I was about 3. And from 3 to 26 or so, I never called him dad. I never referred to him as dad. I never saw him. He wasn't in my life. But I had this underlying aching desire to have some kind of relationship with this person that I called Jim. And so I set up a dinner with him out of the blue, and I sat down with him and I said, okay, Jim, I'm going to sit and tell you all the things that I'm really angry with you about. And then, and all the reasons I really hate you. And then I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to let you do the same things. And we're just going to start over. And we did that exercise, Robin, and it was so cathartic. Here's the illustration. There were multiple times where I said, well, why didn't you ever invite me to hear X, Y, Z, whatever? Why didn't you, call me and do whatever? And he would say, I never called because I never thought you wanted to hear from me. Yeah. So we sat down, and what I discovered after that whole conversation was that the assumptions and the truths that I thought were evident were not. And so I had been living my whole life under this premise that my dad didn't want to hear from me and didn't want a life with me. And the reality was, he didn't think I wanted a life with him. Mm-hmm. So had I just reframed that mindset earlier, we could have had 10 more years of really great relationship. We were able to reconcile that relationship. We reset and started anew, and it was the most fantastic friendship. He walked me down the aisle, and I called him dad again, and really a beautiful story with a real happy ending. But that's the power of mindset. When you are making assumptions, or when you're approaching life from an angle of things that aren't necessarily true, it's affecting everything in your life when it doesn't.
And I think sometimes, like you said, I think discovering those truths is a lot of digging, right? And it's a lot of communication. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people struggle with, is communicating and being vulnerable, because you had to be vulnerable to call, to make that phone call, to have that conversation, to sit down. Yeah. And when you're a child and you're going through, your brain's not fully developed. And so you are going to have these different types of thoughts and things. And, your assumption is that if the adult is not communicating with me, then they must not want to. Right. And it's a logical assumption, but it is untruth sometimes. And I think a lot of it, again, is just being able to be vulnerable with the person that you feel like you're having some of these things with, and having those tough conversations. Yeah. But the great thing about those tough conversations is then the actual truth comes out. It's not a hearsay. It's not a I think. It's from the horse's mouth, basically. Yeah. And so whether he said, I really don't want a relationship with you, whatever he might have said, at least you would have known the actual truth, And so I'm glad for you and for him that it turned out to be different. And I'm so proud of you for taking the initiative to reach out, because I think that it takes a lot to do that. And I think that's where some people fall short. I also feel like we live in a very judgmental world, where people are throwing and casting judgment without really knowing truth and facts. Yeah. And that creates chaos in our minds. And it also creates what is that? Like, for us to be defensive a lot of times. And so again, can you change? Absolutely. Reframing is not that hard. What it is noticing. It's noticing in the moment that you might be having that thought where you are maybe placing judgment, or you are and then having an internal conversation. I can't tell you how many times a day I tell people, you have to talk to yourself. Like, you have to actually physically speak out loud and have the conversations while you're driving, while you're walking, or journal, whatever. I mean, however you get it out loud. Exactly. Otherwise, they just store. and then
Yep.
those negative things store in your body, and that creates unwellness.
Right.
So it's as simple as changing your thought can change your health.
Totally. And I want to invite your listeners to do what I did with my dad, with themselves. Set up a time with yourself to say,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to do a fresh start. What are the things that are driving me? What are the things that are holding me back? What are the fears that I'm holding on to? And why am I holding on to them? What are the
Mhm.
things that I think about myself? I can't do this. I can't do that. Or maybe I can do this. Or maybe I shouldn't be doing that. So do some self exploration like that. Give
Mhm.
yourself the beauty of a fresh start with yourself and create a new relationship, because that will shift your mind and empower you to start creating a new healthful life.
Yes. And I also think it also gives you an opportunity to decide what serves you best in this moment and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And that way you can move away from things that no longer serve you, because we do grow, we do change, we get wiser. And some people come along in that journey and some people don't. And that's okay too. That doesn't mean you have to be a hater. It doesn't mean you have to hate the people, the person, the whatever. And it's also about learning others, because what
Right.
I have found personally in my life is that sometimes the expectation that you hold about somebody else has nothing to do with them. It's all about you. And
Oh,
so I
often,
feel
usually.
like now I'm a little bit wiser where I can say, it is the situation. I don't have to agree with the situation. I don't have to put myself in the situation,
Right.
but I just have to know that that's not for me to figure out. For me to
Yeah.
figure out is over here. And so
Right.
stay in your own lane, basically.
Well, we only have
Sometimes.
control over us. We have a
Yes.
lot of control over
Yeah.
us,
And
complete. We
yeah.
don't have control over other people. And we have to learn to love other people for who they are, not who we
Mhm.
want them to be. It's
Yes.
really
Gosh,
key.
that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Stop loving, stop expecting your family members, your parents, your kids. Stop loving them for who you want them to be. Love them for who they are. And accept that, and just change your expectations. They are their own person. You can't control them. Love them for who they are, not who you want them to be.
I love that. So we're going to end on that note because I think that's a beautiful way to end. But before we go, and we definitely will have you back on because we have so much more to talk about. Obviously, you've been on a journey, a health and wellness journey for several years at this point.
Mhm.
What are some non-negotiables that you've created for yourself over time, that you implement on a daily basis so that you live your best life day to day?
Great question. Really good question. I wish I could tell you that I am just, that I went on this journey, that I learned all this stuff, and that I implemented it all, and it's perfect.
No,
It's not, never will be. Just so there's one of my non-negotiables, to just understand it never will be perfect. So I
love it.
really had to embrace improvement, a little bit of progress over that perfection. I know that's kind of a cliche statement these days, but truly it is. I have to just acknowledge that I'm never going to be perfect. And I'm on a journey, and every day I have a choice to make one tiny step toward health or a tiny step toward disease.
Mhm.
That's it. Easy pleasy. I either am going to take this day and really step a little bit toward healing or a little bit toward death. Which one do I want to choose? And so that's my non-negotiable, is to just try to be really aware of it every day. And since we just flipped over the new year, my new year goal is to try to keep my body as clean as I want to keep my house. That's my new non-negotiable.
Love that.
And to stop, because I'm a real finicky I love my house clean and orderly. And I mean, it's not spick and span. You'll see dirt here and there, but I mean, it's always picked up. And if it's not, it drives me nutso. So I want to start adopting that mentality for the inside of my body and make the inside of my body as clean as I possibly can. So my non-negotiable is continually to make better choices, love myself, have the mindset that I'm on a journey. I'm a child trying to learn how to ride a bike in a way.
Yeah.
The bike I'm riding is how to be healthy. And I'm gonna ebb and flow and sometimes fall off, but I'm gonna continue to try every
Keep
day.
getting back up.
Yeah, exactly. Keep
Yeah.
getting back up, keep trying.
I love that. And I often talk about like dips because I think
Yes,
dips are reality.
exactly.
They're part of life. And I think they're there for a reason. I think they have a purpose, a really good purpose. I think for me, my mindset around that is they're there to show you how far you've come. Because when you have a dip and you're able to get back up faster, right? Because you've kind of ridden
Yeah,
the bike
yeah,
already.
yeah.
it makes things go quicker, but it shows you just how much progress you've made.
Yep. And
And
where the
just,
potholes are. It's like, oh, there's a
yes,
pothole. I need to be aware of that next time.
that's
Aware
right.
of that. The thing that caused you to dip.
That's right. 100%. I love it. So, all right, everybody, I know for sure that after this episode, you guys can walk away with a few things at least that really resonate with you and can help you on your wellness journey. And I'm super excited to hear what you found in this episode. So please send a DM or comment below on the episode. Before we leave, before this episode ends, all of Lisa's stuff will be in the show notes, of course, how to contact her. It'll have the link to your course so people can look and research it and get in touch with you if they're interested.
Right.
But for nothing else, I know that this episode has brought to light some very important things that might be part of your non-negotiables one day. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day and week, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Wasn't that episode with Lisa just awesome? I just love her. She's so sweet. A couple of the takeaways that I wanted to mention was, of course, number one, reading your food labels. I can't stress enough how important it is to understand what you are putting in your mouth, but you can't do that unless you know how to read ingredients. So look at those labels, look for hidden sugars, look for words you can't pronounce. If you can't, look them up. If the list is really long, just know that it's probably not a product that you want to be ingesting. Number two, incorporating creative activities, because creativity does help with our wellness. And that can look very different for everybody. It could be something like singing, drawing, journaling, dancing, organizing, planting. Everything that you do can have a creative aspect if you look at it in that way. Number three, we talked about mindset reset because of how important it is, to really identify those negative thought patterns that we might be having, being aware of them, because that was one thing Lisa really emphasized, was starting with awareness. And when you're aware of those negative thoughts, you can stop yourself. You can ask yourself if that's true or not true. You can decide if it's working for you or not, and then you can move on. And remember that a lot of times we carry things that are not truth in our mind, and until we confront them with the other person or with ourselves, we will never be able to actually understand what the truth actually is. And the fourth thing that we talked about that I thought was really important was fasting. She's a huge advocate for fasting. It's what really helped her to heal her autoimmune disease, because giving our body that vacation, right? That vacation to digesting and working constantly really is a healing modality that we can all use. If you've never done it before, you don't have to jump right into that 3-day cleanse she was talking about. Just start understanding the term fasting, intermittent fasting. Everybody fasts every day, but some people fast longer than others. So if you're someone who only fast 8 hours a day, maybe extend it to 12 hours a day, and then keep working until you feel comfortable with doing a longer fast. Remember, if you're taking medication, if you have a particular disease or chronic illness, to check with your healthcare provider, because as always, this is educational, but also do your own research and see what feels right for you. I hope that you guys really were able to take a few things away that you can start to implement into your life or get curious about. And until next week, I hope you guys have a great time. Bye. Hello, beautiful souls. It's Robin, and you're listening to the Live Life Balance podcast. I'm so excited that you dropped by today, prioritizing you and your wellness. This podcast is for my empty nester mamas, women who are getting close to this new chapter, who have dipped one toe in, or who are fully embracing this new phase. This is for the mamas who are ready to take back their health, to live their best lives. If you're looking for an authentic, supportive community, you're definitely in the right place. It's a space for us to learn how to prioritize ourselves again. I'll be your guide, pointing you to ideas and tools that you can experiment with to see what feels good for you. You'll also hear guests talking about their journeys and what's worked for them. Together, we're going to learn how to use the 1% shift method to create little shifts and habits that, who knows, maybe become your non-negotiables to feel your best. By feeling our best, we can show up in our purpose and live the most joyful life, even in the challenging times. And boy, this new chapter can seem challenging, but I can assure you we're not alone. Some of the topics we're going to talk about are self-love, self-care, nutrition, daily toxins, food swaps, mindset, and reframing our thoughts. I hope you leave each time feeling a little more empowered and at ease to take a step or two that will allow you to shine. Are you ready? If you said yes, take a nice deep breath and say, I am ready. Now let's get into it.